The Nittany Lions take the field in their road whites for a day full of snow at Spartan Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. I kind of like that. I'm here for some more.
The offense piles up the yardage as the snow piles up on the field. Once again, the Nittany Lions end up on the short end of the scoreboard.
It's tough, knowing that almost every loss we've had has come within one possession games.
The regular season ends with fewer wins than expected, and soon after, one less coach on the staff. We check in with another episode of Nittany Game Week that starts right now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. We have the usual cast of characters for you. I'm Todd Sadowski, Jay Paterno, Tom Bradley. Regular season's over. Still not much time to catch your breath, is it, guys?
Well, you got to recruit, and then this weekend you're going to find out who you're playing the bowl game, and you're going to start getting ready for that and making plans to travel somewhere. It's not much time at all.
Not much time at all.
No.
You're packing your bag Sunday, you're on the road.
Yep.
Figuring where you got to go. You know that you're praying the weather's nice, so you don't have to miss flights or drive through snow or
You don't
whatever.
miss flights anymore, Tom. It's all private planes.
Well, that's different.
Yes.
Or they cancel the flights altogether.
Exactly.
At this particular point. All right, so we're going to do some more regular season in review type analysis coming up. We talk Winter Wonderland, True Grit, and some after halftime adjustments in our opening drive. Has anyone ever been to East Lansing when the sun is shining? Because it wasn't the other day as they get into the snow, but it was a winter wonderland in East Lansing, guys.
Well, we've been talking about that last weekend all year about you never get nice weather in East Lansing.
On the banks of the old Red Cedar,
No,
you're
it's
never sure
always
what
that
you're
way.
going to get.
I'm sure it's nice sometimes.
Well, it started snowing before, and it never stopped, and it got stronger in the second half. So I was amazed at how well the offenses performed early on, and things slowed down a little bit in the second half. But they put up some points in this game. The offenses didn't have too much trouble.
No, in fact, you're better off having it snow than rain when it gets cold because, snow doesn't affect the ball very much, and they did a nice job with it. And for Penn State players, they were camouflaged.
Yeah, and the footing was good, too. It's a different playing on the turf than the grass. It was just a good way.
And at home watching on TV, there was no first down line. My kids were like, how did you ever watch football like this?
Yeah, the white uniforms were like camouflage.
Yes.
All right, so for many of the guys, this was their first time playing a football game in the snow, and they didn't mind it one bit.
I didn't expect it because the snow, like I said, this is my first time, so I didn't know, was it going to be hard to throw the ball or even run the ball, so it was kind of impressive.
Was it tougher in the second half after more snow had fallen?
Kind of traction on the ground was kind of hard to, keep your base and keep your ground. You just slipping and sliding everywhere.
Yeah, Lee was effective with some explosive runs on the ground for Penn State, ended up with 83 yards on 15 carries, but did lose a key fumble in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and those turnovers, again, they've been so good with the ball all year, not turning the ball over, and then they had 2 fumbles, which were critical.
Yeah, they had the 4th and 24 conversion, though, guys. True grit from Sean Clifford.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly how you draw it up, but I'll tell you what, it looked like he was down, got out of there and made a great throw.
It works that way sometimes,
Yeah.
It's interesting because here's the third down play, right? They come after Clifford. He avoids the rush, and you're thinking, throw it away, and he hangs on to it, decides to do that, takes the big loss, and then coming up is the 4th and 24 play.
Really an amazing job here. It's one of those things that watching on TV, it looked close to be into the line, and I'm like, don't measure it. Don't measure it, because it was just an incredible play by him. Great effort.
You can see he slings it, just barely completes it to Brenton Strange, and that led to a touchdown drive. I mean, they took it all the way down the field to score. After the game, Clifford was asked about his career, and he feels he's gotten better, but obviously not good enough to win these pivotal games.
Proud of, all of our guys, honestly, how we've battled, the offense line, has handled pressures and defensive fronts really well this year, giving me a lot of time to throw. There's a lot of things I can grow on too, and that's really what I focus on the most is because, once you make things your strengths, you want to build on that, but you want to, focus on the weaknesses and making sure that, you're becoming the best quarterback you can.
He has a Cotton Bowl victory on his resume. Mostly Sean Clifford is known for keeping the Nittany Lions close, but may keep them from getting over the top in close games at times. This 4th and 1 comes up short, and that's a problem that's plagued his time as the starter. Of course, part of the reason Penn State ends up on the losing end in East Lansing is because of an adjustment by the Spartans after the break.
Yeah, I mean, Mel Tucker did an interview right before halftime, said we got to help our corners out. And everybody knew it was coming, and Penn State didn't seem to be able to adjust to take advantage
They
of it with
dared
the
them.
run
They
game.
said, run the ball. They
Yep.
showed them the box and said, hey, we dare you to run the ball.
Yeah, and on offense, the Spartans and Peyton Thorne took advantage of some zone coverages at times, and they did a nice job pointing out targets and getting first downs. And Penn State did have some balance in their offense, but it wasn't enough throwing to get the job done in the end.
Yeah, we talked about this in the scouting report last week. They were going to utilize their tight ends in the pass game, going to utilize the wideouts for a threat, and even they got the flea flicker in there. I mean, and then the third and short, they threw the ball. I mean, they did the things that Michigan State does well.
Especially one of the things that they can do, I really believe this weather helped them because of their ground game. They are more confident in their run game than Penn State is in their run game. They only average Penn State, if you take away the big run, 1.12 yards per carry, and that's not going to win you many games.
Yeah, so the second half adjustment is just something that plagued Penn State all year long, and those losses is the second half performance.
Yeah, no question. And the offense has not been as strong in the second half. Look at the yardage, look at the points in the second half as well. And the defense has given up the lead in all 5 of the losses in the second half.
And the interdivision, East versus West, it's a little closer than you would think, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was surprising to me when I saw that stat.
It adds up to 5 losses for them to the 2nd, 7th, 11th, and 13th ranked teams in the country. And then what most fans feel is the unforgivable 9 overtime setback at home to Illinois. Time for the scrap medal. Now, we know Coach Bradley, very decisive guy. He's also very generous. So that's why there are 2 winners of the scrap medal this week. And here's the first one.
Well, let's start off with Jahan Dotson, okay? 8 catches, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. You know, there's most weeks I could give it to this guy. We kind of moved it around a little bit, but he had an outstanding game and an outstanding career at Penn State. And then Jordan Stout. Okay, once again, 2 punts on the 7, 1 punt on the 1. To me, he's by far the best punter in the country. It's not close. And I think of the great punters we've had at Penn State. I go back to John Bruno in the Fiesta Bowl for the national championship game, and George Reynolds in the Aloha Bowl when the punter won the MVP of the game.
Yes, which tells you how exciting a game it was.
It was.
But give Hartlaub a lot of credit on that one inside the 1. Incredible effort to get that thing down inside the 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I spotted NFL scouts from the Bills and 49ers in the press box. All of Dotson's skills were on display for them with the first of his 2 touchdown catches, hands, body control, and awareness.
That's just a part of my game. Just kind of my awareness for where I'm at on the field, how I need to torque my body and stay in bounds and get in the end zone. So I feel like that's a strength of mine that I can use at the next level for sure.
Dotson is the only first-team All-Big Ten choice on the Nittany Lions offense. Still to come, our scouting report, which is more like a self-scouting report this week. Coach Paterno and Coach Bradley show us why it's important to look inward for end-of-the-season corrections. Nittany Game Week returns after this.
Scouting Report is sponsored by Penn State Health, giving you the care you want, where you want it. Visit PennStateHealth.org to find a provider near you.
We are back on Nittany Game Week, end of the regular season. Been a grind for the coaching staff, still plenty of work ahead. And it starts with some self-scouting to figure out the things that worked well and some of the areas in need of improvement. Coach Paterno and Coach Bradley, why is this process necessary, and what did you see when you looked at the 2021 Nittany Lions?
Well, Todd, we're going to focus in just on the game. So, on a Sunday or a Monday, the team comes in and coaches look at the game film and they point out some good things, point out some bad things. That's what we're going to do right here. So we'll start with Penn State's offense. Start with the good news first. And again, there's your camouflage. Hard to find, guys. But Michigan State gave me a lot of 2 deep. And they were able on these switch routes, Tom, that I know you love as a secondary coach,
I hate
to
them,
get a
and you
guy
know
down
it.
inside to hold the safety and get the corner in that void. And they did a nice job on it, didn't they?
They sure did. That was a great scheme against that particular. They knew they were getting a lot of that coverage on Saturday.
And you got to get that ball in there about 18 to 20 yards. Great catch and great job getting it over the end line. One of the things they did was they started to put trips in the boundary. You want to get teams out of that 3-deep coverage, you go trips in the boundary, and they got to adjust to it. And again, the same thing here. They bring people down, pull the backside safety, and get Dotson over the top on the slot.
Exactly, and that's a tough route, to cover when you're on the defensive side of the ball for that safety. He's kind of caught twixing between 2 different areas there.
Absolutely. And so now Michigan State, they see some things. They get in the second half. They're still in that two-deep look here inside the red zone. Did a great job against the red zone, and now they play this same kind of corner concept guy underneath, and they kind of bottle us up for Penn State.
Yeah, that was interesting how they did that too, because they really read it well. I think they had an idea that Penn State was going to come with that particular play.
Yeah, and because of that, they make Clifford hold the ball and take the sack. Now, the fourth down play, this has been a topic of much discussion about Penn State fans. They show them too deep. They get Penn State to run the run because you want to run the ball against too deep, and then late they come with the corner blitz off the edge, not corner, nickel blitz, and then they slant the line into the run play.
Yeah, and that's a great call in that particular situation with the down in the distance. And it's something that, if we had watched tape during the week, we had noticed Michigan State would go to this in short yardage situations.
Yeah, and they do a nice job with it. Now let's switch over to defense, and we'll start with the bad first and then get to the good. Now let's start with the cutback runs where Penn State had some trouble filling on the backside. Because, again, they get a trip to the front, Tom, and they overcommit. They put the safety, strong safety over the trip side, one-on-one to backside, and there's no support.
Yeah, this is, the grimy part of your job, being a secondary, being a corner. You got to be able to make plays on the cutback runs.
Yeah, and that safety, he's got to judge the speed. It was early in the game. Didn't judge it as well as he should have. Red zone defense. Now, the next thing we'll show you, and for kids that play football at home, coaches, this is how you handle a scramble. This is how you do a scramble drill offensively. Michigan State goes back. Penn State does a nice job. Defensive end loses contain, and you'll see the deep guy comes down. The guy in the back comes across the back of the end zone.
Yeah, one of the things you got to learn how to plaster in these situations too when the quarterback starts to scramble in the secondary.
Yeah, and again, an old Bill Walsh rule in the West Coast offense: when you're scrambling the back of the end line, stay more than 1.5 yards away, because if you have to jump up and catch the ball, you don't want to land out of bounds. Now, let's talk about some good things they did now. Second half, they started just a little better. Here's an example of 3-level run defense. Keep contained, linebacker engage in the backfield, and safety make the tackle.
Yeah, one of the great things is watching linebackers play downhill and at 45-degree angles, and then your fits are all nice and clean there, as you can see. And that's good football. That's good tackling.
Good tackling against a really, really good back. And now finally talk about the pick six. One of the big plays, the only touchdown for a while in the game for Penn State. Again, the guy in the slot undercuts this route, comes underneath. This throw's got to be high and outside. Any young quarterback's watching, anytime you throw the out, it's got to be high and outside.
For sure, that's one of the things. And he did a great job baiting him into this throw. This is a huge play in the game at the time. And I said, okay, now Penn State got some good things happening here.
Absolutely did a great job. And unfortunately, made some good, made some bad, not quite enough good. But, Todd is always great, so let's send it back over to Todd and just bask in his greatness.
Oh, geez, I'm blushing, guys. Well, one of the other issues to deal with is staff changes, and there's a big one. While the offensive coordinator position has seen 3 different people in the past 3 seasons, the defense has been a model of consistency with Brent Pry in charge for Coach Franklin. Coach Pry, an Altoona native, his new residence, Blacksburg, Virginia, to be the new head coach of the Va-Tech Hokies. Pry was a grad assistant for the school. He accepts the position earlier this week, vacating the D coordinator spot he's held the past 8 seasons in Happy Valley. In his post on Twitter, Coach Pry said the opportunity to coach at linebacker U was a dream come true. He's been coaching for 30 years. His teams have finished in the top 25 in total defense 8 times, including 4 with Penn State. The Nittany Lions are 7th in scoring defense this season at 16.8 points. Time to take a break. When we come back, our Impact interview. We encourage viewer participation, and we know the end of the regular season brings a lot of questions. We tackle 5 of the tougher ones as you interview us. Coming up next on Nittany Game Week. Welcome back to the show. It's time for our Impact interview, and we're going to switch things up for 1 week. Nittany Game Week encourages viewer participation, and we know you have questions, so we're going to try to provide some answers. The coaches and I are going to tackle some of your fan questions, and the first one we deal with is about the offensive line, a common theme. Kathy writes on Facebook, it seems consistently that we have offensive line issues. Are they recruiting hard for offensive line players? Can we have a reason to get our hopes up? And Tony from Lebanon also chimed in, writing, what and how do we fix the problem with the offensive line? Is it the players we recruit, the offensive line coach, play calling, or a combination of all?
Well, let me say this. Let's go back, and I think we've got it. I know you guys have been teasing me all the time when I said we need more men's. And I think we need to go out and get a lot more people to play offensive line. They're the hardest guys to find. The skill guys are easier to find. Those offensive line guys take time to develop, okay? A little bit easier now because of the transfer portal. You can get them in and get some guys a little bit older maybe to come in and play. But you need a lot of these guys. If you're never going to, I don't think you can really be dominant in the Big Ten if you cannot run the football. Because I think that's the thing that's going to help you win championships.
I think Michigan certainly showed that Saturday against Ohio State. And I think you got to talk about the weight room at some point, too. If you're evaluating yourself, you probably want to take a look at what you're doing in the weight room.
Make sure you have enough so you can have a little bit of hit and miss potentially. Sticking on the offensive side of the ball, our next question is about the effectiveness of the O, or lack thereof, when needed in crunch time. Marcus from Doylestown asks, when one side of the ball clearly not as effective as the other, and it never seems to get better throughout the season, how much is that a reflection on the offensive coordinator versus the head coach?
Well, I think part of it is there were some execution issues on some plays. I mean, it's a lot of different things, and I think at some point the head coach got to get involved. You know, the CEO head coach can work for only so long. At some point, there's got to be some give and take there, and he's got to. Again, the buck stops with the head coach.
You know, I think the one thing, I think you're absolutely right. And it's going to be an interesting offseason, obviously, for them, because this is one area that's must be fixed.
Yeah.
All right, our third question is about college versus NFL success, and it's for Tom. Mark from Greensburg writes, Mr. Bradley, love the respect. Some of the guys who have graduated and played for our program over the past 8 years have done fairly well in the NFL. You have experience at both levels and are an outstanding coach. Did you write this, Tom? How do you explain their middle-of-the-road success in college versus extraordinary success in the NFL?
I knew you weren't going to let that go. Okay.
Couldn't resist.
Couldn't resist it. Hey, anyway, I think what happens is, too, like schematically, it's different what you play in college a lot of times to what you see in the NFL. The NFL's offenses are more standard week in and week out. College, as you know, 1 week you could be seeing the veer, the spread, the power game. It's different from week to week. And a lot of times your assignments become a little bit simpler as you get into the NFL. Also, you're not going to school either, and your whole time, what are you doing? Football.
Yeah, and I think you look at Micah Parsons, they've really made him a pass rusher in the NFL, where there's a lot less to. I mean, when he goes after the passer, it's different than having to sit back and read a lot of things.
Everybody matures differently, too. People forget these are 18 to 22, 23-year-olds. You get to the next level, you're becoming a little bit more of a men's, right?
And some people never mature at all. So, I mean, so there you have it.
All right, James Franklin's new deal, of course, on many of your minds. A lot of questions being asked about it this week. Brett from Williamsport asks, what were the factors that the compensation committee used to make their decision on giving Coach Franklin the extension?
Well, I'll take this one since I'm on the board of trustees. Contracts other than the president's go to a subcommittee on compensation. So they were given a presentation by Sandy as to why they felt that this was warranted. They felt like they wanted to lock James up for 10 years. The reality is, in 3 years, the buyout is such that James really has the leverage to go if he wants to go, whereas Penn State is guaranteed all $80 million on the contract. But those are the factors that go into it and how it's done.
Our final question is future facing. Look at the big picture of the Penn State football program moving forward. Lene asks on Facebook, what is your realistic prediction for the success of this team over the next 10 years?
Predicting success over the next 10 weeks or 10 months is hard enough, let alone 10 years. I think there's going to be a lot of transition because there's going to be new faces in a lot of places playing next year. The front half of the schedule next year is very difficult with going to Purdue, going to Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa. So I think that, next year's probably a building year, and then we'll see what happens after that.
And then you're going to have some coaching changes next year just because, Coach Pry left and we're going to run with your staff's going to change. Who's the coordinator? Who's coaching linebackers? There's going to be a lot of different things there that'll be unsettled.
Yeah, losing a lot of experience. They're going to have to fill a lot of positions with some young players. If they sign a great recruiting class, great. Be patient, right? I know everybody wants to win immediately, that type of deal, tough schedule. But Coach Franklin, he's there. He's got the extension. He's going to be there. So let's see what they can do and address some of those coaching positions, some of the schematic stuff, and move forward from there. All right, we appreciate your questions. Keep them coming. And make sure you visit our website, NittanyGameWeek.com, for all kinds of content, previous Impact interviews, of course, along with our web-exclusive features. Nittany Game Week continues all the way through the new year. So make sure you keep watching. The regular season is over, and we've had some fun road trips. The last one results in a quality snow angel on the field at Spartan Stadium. We talk road tripping and show off some pride picks when we return on Nittany Game Week.
Look at that form.
A few minutes left in the show. No more games left in the regular season. Road trips. Any favorite stops in the Big Ten and why?
Well, for me, I like going to the Horseshoe in Columbus. That's my favorite place. I just like the history of it, the way it is, the fans, the whole thing, the tradition. I love playing in the shoe. You know it's going to be a heck of a football game, and it's a fun place to go win.
Brings out the best.
I was going to say that, but I go Wisconsin as my second one. There's something about that place and night games. It's a lot of fun.
Well, Wisconsin, you just teed me up. Here's a quick picture collage of a few of the trips. And things got underway with a trip to Madison for myself and Andrew Callista, Wisconsin, to face the Badgers and Camp Randall. Look at this. Nice and warm, early September, short sleeves. A few weeks later, Kinnick Stadium. Hey, did you know the Hawkeyes have pink locker rooms for the visitors? They want to keep their opponents calm. And when in Iowa, Lindsey Barn and Andrew stop and take in the Field of Dreams. Culminates in East Lansing, snow on the ground, winter gear necessary. Throw a few snowballs as we do our post-game work. And when it's all said and done, before we hit the road back to PA, look at this, guys. Pretty good form for Andrew on that Snow Angel.
You guys are looking like Jim Cantori in the Weather Channel there, all bundled up with your gear.
All right, well, we didn't need any more snow. It's plenty to get the job done. Don't miss our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com, which includes these local businesses. Our goal is to build a team in the community that supports the show and that you, in turn, support as a viewer to keep the hometown strong. And the list is growing. The website, visit NittanyGameWeek.com. Depth chart, impact interviews, other web-exclusive content, all found in one location on the web. You can see the show on our network of stations and then share it with everyone by sending them to the web. Next up, the bowl destination is announced, and next week a special episode of Nittany Game Week on location in the Pocono Mountains. Jay will be on the skis, Tom will be on the surfboard or something in the indoor water park. We'll see what we got going on. But we finish with some pride picks for Jay and Tom. I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.